let's talk about what happens after your software has been activated. Managing that license lifecycle is crucial, right? In this explainer, we're diving deep into the post-activation features of PCGuard's remote protection system, covering everything from securely removing and transferring a license to updating it on the fly. So here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with the core settings that you need to know to even enable these features. Then, we'll walk through exactly how license removal, transfer, and extension work. And finally, we'll tie it all together with a quick summary of what these tools can do for you.
Okay, first things first, the core management settings. Think of these as the main control panel inside your project. These are the switches you flip to turn on all the powerful license management features we're about to discuss.
Now take a look at the defaults here, because this is important. You'll see that license extension and removal are already switched on, but notice license transfer is off. That's done on purpose. It's a security-first approach, meaning you have to actively choose to let your users move their licenses. You're in complete control from the get-go.
And it's not just about simple on and off switchers. You get some really fine-grained control here. You can decide if the app should fall back to a demo mode after a license is moved. You can block these actions completely for, say, trial versions. And you can even put a cap on how many times a user can transfer a license to stop any potential misuse.
All right, with the settings covered, let's jump into our first big topic, secure license removal. This is all about how you can cleanly and, more importantly, safely deactivate a license on a user's machine. Now, a key thing to get here is that this process doesn't actually uninstall your application. All it does is wipe the activation status. This is huge because it means the PC will now generate brand new site and MID codes, essentially making it a clean slate from a licensing point of view, all set for a fresh activation if needed. The whole security of this process really comes down to the removal code. When a user deactivates, the system spits out this unique code. This code is your verifiable proof, your golden ticket, really, that the license on that old machine is officially gone. Only then can you confidently issue a new license for another computer.
And from your user's point of view, this whole thing is super straightforward. It's just a simple, guided process right inside the activation dialog they're already familiar with. And see that step 3? By default, it asks for the original activation code, which is a really smart little security check to stop people from accidentally removing their license.
So the big takeaway here is flexibility. Sure, the user can do it manually, but you can also integrate this right into your own systems. You can automate the validation of those removal codes with the Activation Center, or you can even trigger the removal yourself programmatically through the API or a command line call. That can make for a much smoother support experience.
All right, next up, let's talk about something I'm sure you've all dealt with. A customer gets a new computer and wants to move their software over. Let's see how you can handle that without any headaches.
This is the classic problem, right? How do you let a user do this securely and, ideally, by themselves so your support team doesn't have to get involved every single time? Well, let's walk through exactly how this transfer process works.
Here's how it works. It all starts on the old machine, computer A. The user kicks off the transfer process and they're prompted to enter the site code from their new machine, computer B. The system then does its magic, generating a brand new activation code that will only work on computer B. At the same time, it deactivates the license on the old machine. And if you're using limited licenses, like a 30-day trial or a version with a set number of runs, the system is smart about it. Let's say a user has 10 days left. That exact amount, 10 days, gets carried over to the new machine. They don't lose any of the value they paid for, which is a great user experience.
Now this is where it gets really important for you, the developer. You're in charge. You can set a limit on transfers to prevent abuse. When a user hits that limit, they get a clear, easy-to-understand error message. And if you're automating things with the API, you get a specific error code back, PCGI_error_transfer_impossible. So your application can handle that situation gracefully.
Okay, so we've covered removing and moving a license. But what if you don't want to do either of those things? What if you just want to change an active license? Maybe extend a subscription or unlock a new feature? Well, that is precisely what License Extension is designed for. Think of this as a remote control for your active licenses. You can push out changes to a user's license without them having to deactivate and reactivate. This is incredibly useful for things like subscription models, tiered feature sets, or any kind of usage-based licensing. It's a real game changer.
Now for this to work, you've got 2 flavors of codes you can use. A standard code is pretty basic. It just refreshes the license validity or the run count back to the default values. But an extended code, that gives you surgical control. You can use it to change custom counters, switch on specific features, or even tweak the maximum number of instances the app can run.
So how does this work under the hood? Well, it's based on something called the next site/MID code. When a user clicks the Extend License option, the application shows them this future state code. They send it to you, you use it to generate the proper extension code, and their currently active software knows exactly what to do with it to apply the new settings securely.
All right, let's just do a quick recap and pull together everything we've talked about with these powerful license management tools. So, in a nutshell, PCGuard's remote protection gives you a complete toolkit for managing the entire life of a license after that initial activation. You can securely end a license's life with removal, you can empower your users to move it with transfer, and you can dynamically update and upgrade it with extension. Ultimately, what this all means is that you have the building blocks to create the perfect licensing model for your business. You can mix and match these features to be as flexible or as strict as you need to be, all while giving your users a great experience and keeping your software protected.